Now, two progressives have teamed up to take on the cruelty of the Trump administration's cuts against the SNAP program. So now this was in a recent op-ed by The Guardian. And here you have Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Rashida Tlaib writing about Donald Trump's holiday menu. So now they wrote this, and they said this menu includes handouts for billionaires, but hunger for the poor. So now here's what they wrote. Just in time for the holidays, Trump has finalized the first of three policies that will make this disparity even more obscene. 2 years after passing a $1.5 trillion tax giveaway to the wealthiest Americans and large corporations, the Trump administration plans to strip 3.7 million people of their nutrition benefits. Now, they are, of course, referring to a new rule that would restrict states' power to exempt people without dependents from the SNAP program. Now, that rule takes takes effect April 1st, 2020. So great April Fool's Day on that one. And that's just one of several rule changes issued by the White House that would, again, make it more difficult for people who are already food insecure to be able to get SNAP enrolled in the SNAP program. So now, let me go here to more quotes here. Republicans defend this by saying that keeping people hungry will make them work harder, but we know this is just about cruelty. We know that withholding food from needy people who are underemployed only deepens the crisis of poverty in America. Now imagine believing that denying people food will somehow make them work harder. No, that doesn't work. No, it turns out the opposite is true. When you have workers that are well rested, well fed, well compensated, and actually valued, when you show your employees that you value them, they're actually better employees. These are the basic blocks. These are the basic things that you need to be a happy, productive employee and a happy, productive citizen. So now how that relates to work requirements is, look, there are a lot of people, by the way, that are getting SNAP that already do work. So they also will likely see their benefits cut. There are some people that don't meet that threshold despite still working that will lose their benefits entirely. And then there are those who are disabled and yet still considered healthy enough to work, and so cannot, acquire full-time employment or even part-time employment that meets those work requirements. Those people will be shut out as well. And so the problem here isn't lazy people getting food stamps. The whole myth of the young buck, right? The healthy young buck that just gets food stamps so he can sit on his lazy bottom, or the welfare queen, right? No, the problem here is you have careers, and they address this with the underemployment, that just don't pay enough for humans that work to survive on their own. That's the problem. So now they continue. In addition to fighting as hard as we can against the Trump administration's savage attack on nutrition assistance, we need to go beyond that. We must demand the ultra wealthy finally start paying their fair share so we can dramatically expand nutrition support. So it's not about just keeping it at its current levels. The Sanders administration, let's whisper of a dream, right, would actually fight to expand benefits. Now, they say that in the richest country in the history of the world, we have a moral obligation to eradicate the hunger that more than 37 million of our fellow Americans suffer every day. We can start by increasing nutrition assistance by $47 per person per month. That is a shortfall between what low-income people need to prepare adequate meals and what they get in benefits. We should also significantly increase the income threshold for this program, because it is a means-tested program, so that everyone who needs help gets it. We must also guarantee that all school children get free breakfast and lunch at every public school in America. And we should also lift the onerous conditions on what people can buy with nutrition assistance, because there are some people, of course, that don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and live in what they call food deserts. Mainly, it's inner city people who have these SNAP cards that are unable to get to these stores because they don't exist in their area. And so they end up buying food from these, small local, sometimes gas stations uh, that don't offer good fresh food. And so they're buying things like snacks and junk and prepackaged and everything like that. And so that's not good. But here's the thing. So what people get on food stamps is about, for example, it's about $300 for two adults that are low income, right? That's if there's very little income in that household. Now that is not a lot of money. These people are not living high off the hog, right? Uh, Now the way that it works is that if your income increases, your benefits decrease. But again, the reason to increase benefits and the threshold of that benefits is because when you start making a very meager income, that's not enough when, especially since the benefit starts to go away and it decreases for every, for every increase in income that you have, it's not enough to cover that shortfall. And so that's a really big problem for those in poor communities. So now that's the reality, right? This is barely surviving. This is not steak and lobster. It's ramen noodles and peanut butter toast. That's what you live off. And I know because I've lived that life before. And it's not a good life. It's not a good thing to live on. If you buy a steak, by the way, you're buying a $3 cut of Aldi steak. That's if you're lucky enough to be able to afford that. Um, Most likely, you're probably buying high fat hamburger at Aldi's. Again, my experience. Or anybody remember Save a Lot? Been there before, plenty of times. So now the thing about that, by the way, is that you're not getting a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. A lot of people end up buying a lot of cheap processed food. That actually leads to health issues down the line. And this is another way that poverty charges interest, right? You're not eating very healthy on a food stamp diet. Again, because, you know, uh, you just look at the health outcomes. Generally, people, again, can't afford health insurance, don't have health insurance, might be enrolled in the Medicaid program, and have other health problems. So, look, and by the way, you could eat healthier on a food stamp diet, but it is incredibly difficult. It's not impossible, but super, super difficult. I remember that some of these celebrities, for example, had attempted a food stamp diet and they were absolutely unable to survive. Absolutely, especially trying to eat in a healthy way. So, anyway, now, look, there's a lot of reasons that this program is absolutely essential. Yet, instead of focusing on the most vulnerable and helping them, Trump and Republicans want to just help the rich. I mean, that's why they continue to give more tax cuts to the rich, more deregulation for corporations, more corporate welfare for corporations, and cutting, the budgets of the most vulnerable. I mean, USDA Chair Sonny Perdue says, "Oh, well, this will help teach people the value of work." People already understand the value of work. What is undervalued are the workers. Work is incredibly valued in the United States, but workers are not. These low-wage workers, they're treated like garbage. They're expendable. They have little to no benefits, no say in the workplace, and on top of it, again, have very, very little pay. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. I mean, that's a disastrous poverty wage. That is $15,000 a year. No human can survive on that in the United States. So now let me get to their conclusion, right? Now, Talib and Sanders writes this: as the new year approaches, let us commit to fighting for a government and an economy that works for an overwhelming majority of the people. That is how we will make food security a human right in America. And this, again, is an important point, right? It's not just about raising benefits and allowing more people access to food stamps. In reality, that's kind of a short-term goal to alleviate the immediate suffering. The other part here is in the rest of Bernie Sanders' agenda, and that is to raise wages and to create good-paying jobs, to break up big corporations, to provide competition or to foster competition and bring down prices, to destroy those regional monopolies and to create those jobs, to do more, to have sustainability in our economy, to bring down the cost of healthcare by doing a Medicare for all system and getting the profit motive out of healthcare. These things are the hallmarks of a functional society that not only takes care of course, their own people, but actually has a thriving, sustainable economy. There's no reason that we can't actually do that here. Right now, we've got the opposite of those things. And right now, aiding those who are food insecure should be one of the most basic things that we should be able to do. But of course, there will be people who, when we always, talk about doing some sort of social benefit or increasing some sort of social benefit, we'll always ask, well, how do we pay for it? It's funny that they never ask how we're going to pay for an increase in the military budget, or how do we pay for more corporate welfare for the rich? They never ask that, but always when it comes to increasing a social benefit. And that just shows you where their priority is. And really, if we can give $1.5 trillion in tax cuts to the rich, then we can sure as hell eliminate hunger in this country. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.